Good afternoon, my dear students, the students of grade 5. Today's lesson in social will be about the Umayyad state. We will continue studying about Umayyad state, one of the greatest states ever in the 8th century. And today's lesson will be the late Umayyads, page 70. This lesson comes after the lesson of great women, great men and great women in the history of the Umayyads last time. In today's lesson, we will learn about the late Umayyads, the last people in the Umayyad states, and how they were great or how they were bad so far. We will know this together through this lesson. So listen to the first part and let's discuss this together, guys. I'll let you listen to this part, but you know that my computer is lagging sometimes. So it's okay. Now, yes, it works now. Listen.
Lesson 2. The late Umayyads. Benchmarks. In this lesson you will recognize important figures in the area. Identify the sequence of caliphs. Caliph al-Walid ibn Abd al-Malik was one of the greatest Umayyad caliphs. During his rule, the caliphate expanded into Europe. His armies crossed the Mediterranean Sea and went into the Iberian Peninsula, an area that had been controlled since the beginning of the 6th century by the Visigoths. The North African part of the caliphate was called Ifriqiya. The governor of Ifriqiya was Musa ibn Nusayr. He had been responsible for bringing the Berber people who lived in the area into the Islamic State. Following orders from Musa and the Caliph, General Tariq ibn Ziyad led a Muslim army across the sea from Quetta in North Africa in 711 AD. The army landed in Gibraltar, and within a few months they had defeated the Visigoth king Roderick. Tariq ibn Ziyad divided the army into different sections and sent them off to different parts of the Iberian Peninsula, to Malaga in the east, to Cordoba and to Granada. He himself led an expedition to Toledo, which was the capital of the Visigoth kingdom. Within 7 years, most of the Iberian Peninsula was under the rule of the Caliphate in Damascus. The area captured by the Muslim armies was called Al-Andalus.
Yes, and they stopped here in Al-Andalus. So it's very important, guys, to know that Caliph al-Walid ibn Abd al-Malik, this is the first one, was one of the greatest Umayyad caliphs. So you have to know that Caliph al-Walid ibn Abd al-Malik ibn Marwan was one of the greatest Umayyad caliphs. And during his caliphate, you have to know that they expanded the caliphate. Expanded the caliphate, it means make the caliphate bigger and bigger. They expanded the caliphate into Europe, and his armies crossed the Mediterranean Sea and went into the Iberian Peninsula. That's an area that had been controlled since the beginning of the 6th century by the Visigoth. Who are the Visigoth? The Visigoth are Germanic people who ruled Western Europe and Iberia. This is the first part, and it's so important. So to recap the first part, we have to know that Caliph al-Walid ibn Abd al-Malik was one of the greatest Umayyad caliphs, and during his caliphate, the caliphate or the Umayyad Caliphate expanded. It means it became bigger and bigger into Europe. And his armies crossed the Mediterranean Sea. His armies crossed the Mediterranean Sea and went into the Iberian Peninsula. This is the first part. The second part, you will know that the North African part of the Caliphate was called Africaliph. And the governor of the Africaliph was Musa ibn Nusayr. He had been responsible for bringing the Berber people who lived in the area into the Islamic State. The Berber people, it means the people that were living in the desert in the past. Following that, you will know about General Tariq ibn Ziyad, and Tariq ibn Ziyad was one of the greatest leaders or Muslim leaders in the past. He led a Muslim army across the sea from Kota in North Africa in 711 AD, and the army landed in Gibraltar, and within a few months they had defeated the Visigoth king Roderick. All that you will know at the end that Tariq ibn Ziyad himself, he led the Muslim army in order to defeat the army of the people in Al-Andalus, and he and his army invaded Al-Andalus. Okay, this is the first part. The second part in here, listen.
At first, Al-Andalus was ruled by governors who were appointed by the Caliph in Damascus. But as the late Umayyads became less powerful, so this part of the Caliphate became more and more independent. Say if these statements are true or false. Correct the false statements in your notebook. Musa ibn Nusayr was the Caliph when the Muslim armies first went to the Iberian Peninsula. Tariq ibn Ziyad was the famous Muslim general.
Yeah, if we stop in here, you'll find that in the box and red box here, all the most important information that you have to know is that number one, Musa ibn Nusayr was the Caliph when the Muslim armies first went to the Iberian Peninsula. So Musa ibn Nusayr was the Caliph when the Muslim armies first went to the Iberian Peninsula. That's number one. Number two, Tariq ibn Ziyad was the famous Muslim general who led successful expeditions into the Iberian Peninsula. Expeditions, you know, it's a journey, but to discover or for a specific purpose. Toledo was a capital of Visigoth kingdom, and Visigoth, I told you about it, it's the Germanic people. The Muslim armies were not able to capture the whole of the Frankish kingdom, and Al-Andalus became an independent country after King Roderick has been defeated, and he has been defeated, as you know, by Tariq ibn Ziyad. Turn now the page and listen.
The fall of the Umayyad Caliphate in Damascus. The Umayyad Caliphs started to lose their power when the Caliph Hisham ibn Abd al-Malik died, and rebellions began in different parts of the Caliphate. A serious rebellion, led by the Abbasid family, finally led to war in 750 AD. Caliph Marwan II led the Caliphate's army against the army led by Abdullah bin Ali of the Abbasid family. The battle took place on the banks of the Zab River in modern-day Iraq. Marwan's troops were defeated at the Battle of Zab in 750 AD. Marwan escaped from the battle and he fled to the Nile Delta area, today in Egypt. Abbasid soldiers followed him and he was later killed in battle with them. The Abbasids then tracked down all the members of the Umayyad to eliminate any threats to their rule. One member of the Umayyad family escaped. He was Abdurrahman al-Dakhel, the grandson of Hisham. His mother was a Berber princess, so he fled to North Africa and then across the sea to Al-Andalus. Key words: Berber.
So in this part, guys, you will know that this in page 72, you will know that this is the end of the Umayyad state. And the Umayyad caliphs started to lose their power when the Caliph Hisham ibn Abd al-Malik died. So the last one, we have to admit that he was Hisham ibn Abd al-Malik. No, he was not the last one, but when Hisham ibn Abd al-Malik died, I mean, the Umayyad Caliphate started to lose their power because Hisham ibn Abd al-Malik died. And rebellions, it means the people who started to be against the Umayyad Caliphate, they started to raise their voices, they started to ask for their rights in different parts of the Caliphate. A serious rebellion led by the Abbasid family. Yes, and Abbasid family, this is the most important part in here because they are gonna take the place of the Umayyad Caliphate for all the Islamic state and areas around the world. Finally led to a war in 750, and the war was between the Abbasid family and the Umayyad family in 750, the last year for the Umayyad to be kings. So Caliph Marwan II led the Caliphate army against the army by Abdullah bin Ali, and this is from the Abbasid family, but unfortunately he was defeated in this time, and the battle took place on the banks of the Zab River. This one is in Iraq nowadays, and he fled to Egypt, and there they fought with him and they killed him in a battle. This is the second part. Let's go to the third part, which is in 73, the Emirate of Cordoba. Listen.
The Emirate of Cordoba. The governor of Al-Andalus was Yusuf al-Firi. When Abdurrahman arrived in Al-Andalus, he took over and established himself as the Emir of Cordoba in 756 AD. He refused to obey orders from the Abbasid Caliphate. Cordoba was situated along the banks of the Guadalquivir River. The river was used to transport food and supplies to and from the area. When the Muslims arrived, they developed the area using the skills they brought with them. For example, they knew how to use irrigation to grow better crops. Their architects and builders designed and built magnificent buildings, some of which can still be seen today. With these new skills, Cordoba became very prosperous. The population of Cordoba grew until it became the largest city in Europe at the time. Arabs, Berbers, and Europeans lived together peacefully until the 11th century. Cordoba also became a leading cultural center of the Islamic world, as philosophers and scientists were encouraged to live and work in the emirate.
Here in this part in 73, he's going to start to tell you about the Emirate of Cordoba, and he told you here a very important information, which is Muslims, philosophers, scientists, all the kinds of people like Berbers, Arabs, Europeans, all of them, they lived together peacefully until the 11th century in the Emirate of Cordoba. And Cordoba also became a leading cultural center at the Islamic world, as philosophers and scientists were encouraged to live and work in this emirate. So on page 73, he's talking about the importance of the Emirate of Cordoba by 756, by the time of the Abbasid family. There you know the page. The last page, listen.
Abdurrahman al-Dakhel and his family ruled the Emirates from Cordoba for about 150 years. During this time, Cordoba became a peaceful and prosperous place to live. Later, there were rebellions until 912 AD, when Abdurrahman III became emir. He restored the power of the Umayyad emirs and took control of the whole of Al-Andalus again. He also took control of parts of North Africa. In 929 AD, Abdurrahman III proclaimed himself Caliph. This meant that there was an Umayyad Caliph in Al-Andalus and an Abbasid Caliph in Baghdad. The Abbasids chose Baghdad as their capital instead of Damascus when they took power. Order these events on a timeline in your notebook. Abdurrahman III becomes Emir of Cordoba. Marwan II is defeated at the Battle of Zab. Abdurrahman al-Dakhel flees to the Iberian Peninsula.
Yes, guys, in the last part of the lesson 74, they are talking about Abdurrahman al-Dakhel. Abdurrahman al-Dakhel and his family ruled the emirate, I'm talking about the emirate of Cordoba, for about 150 years, for more than 1 century and a half. During this time, Cordoba became a peaceful and prosperous place. Prosperous place, it means a very thrived place, or a very peaceful place, and flourishing place as well to live. Later, there were rebellions until 912 AD. When Abdurrahman III became Emir, he restored the power of the Umayyad emirs and took control of the whole of Al-Andalus again. He also controlled parts of the North Africa. And finally, in 929 AD, Abdurrahman III proclaimed himself a caliph. He said that I have to be a caliph. This meant that there was an Umayyad Caliph in Al-Andalus and an Abbasid Caliph in Baghdad. Baghdad, it means a city in Iraq. The Abbasids chose Baghdad as their capital instead of Damascus when they took power. So we have now the third capital in a row, guys. The first one we were having Medina, and Medina was the capital city during the Islamic state of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and the four Rashidun caliphs that followed with Prophet Muhammad. After the Medina, after 662, the Umayyad state or the Umayyad family started to rule the Islamic world, and they took the mosques in Syria instead of Medina in Saudi Arabia in here. And the third one now in a row is that the Abbasid family, when they started to rule after the Umayyad family, they took the mosques, they took Baghdad in Iraq as their capital. Okay, guys, this was the end of the lesson. I hope you understand. See you today in the online session for any questions or clarifyings. Until then, stay safe and sound. Bye, guys.